The Flames fire up a new season with a massive comeback win over the Canucks. Hey everyone, welcome into Burning Questions. Rob Wong joined alongside by Postmedia Calgary Flames writers Wes Gilbertson and Danny Austin. And what a season opener, guys. The Flames with a 6-5 OT win over Vancouver, erasing a 3-goal deficit after the first period. Wes, what was going through your mind watching that game last night?
Oh, holy smokes, how am I going to write? How am I going to keep the word count to less than 4,000 words as I try to detail everything that happened? It was absolutely nuts. They were, it looked like they were both down and out. Obviously a scary injury to Kevin Rooney. The Flames got, and understandably, sort of fixated on revenge. And suddenly it's 4-1 after the first period. And it was like, okay, well, better luck in game two. And apparently that wasn't the way they were thinking in the locker room because, they erased that 3-goal deficit, one of 6 teams, I think it is now in the last 35 years in the NHL to overcome a 3-goal deficit and win their opener. Then they give up the then they get the go-ahead goal. Then they give up a late tying goal and they win it in overtime. I still don't know that I can sort of properly sum up all that happened. And quite frankly, I'm curious now what it does for the Flames. It's one of those wins. We're talking about a group that's been sort of telling everybody we're better than people think. We're going to prove a lot of people wrong. We're going to surprise a lot of people. And it's one of those wins that does build some belief. I'm certainly not saying that the Calgary Flames are playoff bound because they came back last night against the Vancouver Canucks, but inside that locker room, this is something that's going to really help them build some momentum.
Yeah, and I mean, Wes was doing the game story, so I was cool as a cucumber. I just got to sit back and enjoy it. Like I was loving life. Although, if you read our text, I did half-heartedly offer to help where I could a couple times, knowing that he was going to decline. I just thought it was so much fun, and we've been doing this since the start of training camp, and one of the things that I've repeated is like if they're not going to be good, I think they're going to be fun. And just as I watched that game, I mean, like Wes, I don't really expect them to make the playoffs, but I expect them to compete. And there's pride and there's veteran players on every line. And I mean, if you were to just sort of make a list of boxes you were looking to tick, seeing Jonathan Huberdeau contribute, seeing, Uyghur and Anderson very much involved, very much in leadership roles, seeing Anthony Mantha show what he did. And we're going to get into the standouts later, but other than potentially the goaltending, where I really don't think Dan Vladar had a bad night, but you're not going to be happy allowing 5 goals. Like I think you got contributions from 11 guys who got points, and yeah, just knowing that this is not a team. Every market has had some seasons where there've been a lot of 2-1 games. Doesn't feel like we're going to get this year. So I just had a blast, honestly. Like I don't know that that's deep lying analytical sports analysis, but I had a lot of fun with that last night. I really enjoyed it.
Flames coach Ryan Huska would take some 2-1 games, but I'm with Danny. I don't think we're going to see a lot of them.
Yeah, there were some high-scoring affairs in the NHL on Wednesday night, which is usually the case at the start of the season, and the Flames come out on top in the opener, as we touched on. So Connor Zary, clearly, Danny, one of the standouts of that game with the incredible OT winner. Who else do you think stood out to you in game number 1?
I'm going to take the layup here. I'm going to take the easy one and just say Anthony Mantha. I'll be honest that he was a signing that, he's a very short-term signing. The guy who they brought in to try to bring out the best in Huberdeau was sort of the narrative that's been going around. And, he's a guy who had some pretty up and down seasons over his career. And I will be honest with you that I didn't necessarily see it in training camp. I didn't see any spark to his game. Although you wouldn't expect for a veteran like him to necessarily be, going all out during training camp. He's trying to build up. And then yesterday, Gordie Howe hat-trick in his first game. I believe he's the first Calgary Flames player to do that. But, we've had debates about whether he is a quote-unquote power forward. Well, he was the one who insisted on TJ Miller. He didn't let that go. He was going to fight him. He was going to stand up for his teammate in his very first, regular season game. And then I thought, he had a head of steam. He had missed a breakaway early in the first period, did not miss on the second, and I just thought he was everywhere. And I was really impressed. And I do think, if that line, that Huberdeau, Pospisil, Mantha line, each of whom had a goal, if they are productive, then you begin to wonder if this team could actually be a little bit better than they are. Because you know the Kadri line's going to be good. You know the Backlund line's going to be good. And that fourth line looks like it should be a lot of fun. So I was really encouraged by Mantha's performance.
Yeah, I watched Anthony Mantha last night, and Danny and I were both in a scrum with Ryan Huska during training camp when he said, coaching against him, there's nights where you watch and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's the best player on the ice. And Anthony Mantha, by his own admission, and you won't hear a lot of NHLers say this, but by his own admission, it's been a consistency issue throughout his career. He's sort of struggled to maintain that. Game one was everything that the Calgary Flames could have hoped for out of him, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. A couple other, you could list a lot of standouts last night, but I'll just throw a few in the mix. Braden Pahal makes a save behind Dan Vladar that probably is one of the big reasons the game gets to overtime to begin with, then assists on Jonathan Huberdeau's go-ahead goal. The third pairing defenseman is really sort of understanding, I think, the player he can be at the NHL level, and I think is going to surprise some people in a good way this season. Connor Zary is going to get tons of credit for the highlight reel goal in overtime, but if you watch Marty Pospisil cover the ice in about 3 seconds flat on that play, he attracts the attention of two defensemen. I mean, Connor Zary said post-game he saw Philip Hronek kind of shoulder check because Pospisil was beetling past him, and that opened him up for the toe drag and ultimately a great finish by Zary. And then Danny mentioned Rasmus Anderson and Mackenzie Weegar earlier. Two guys who, I think like most of the team really struggled to find their footing early, but gave the Flames exactly the sort of dependable play as the game wore on that they're going to need out of their two most established and, their two best defensemen by a country mile. And so I could probably keep going, but those were a few guys who really impressed me last night.
So lastly, Dan Vladar getting the start in game number one. It was a tight battle in preseason between him and Dustin Wolf. What do you think, Wes? Anything, if we can take away from Dan Vladar making the season opening start and what it might mean moving forward?
Well, I think he was always sort of the front runner for that night one gig just because of his experience and because he was sort of the incumbent, having served as Jacob Markstrom's backup for the past 3 seasons. Beyond that, I honestly don't know what we can take of it. Like, I think you're going to see Dustin Wolf. The Flames play back-to-back this weekend, at home Saturday against Philadelphia, on the road against Edmonton on Sunday. You're going to see Dustin Wolf without a doubt in one of those games. And I still believe this crease competition is very much ongoing. It's one start to none right now for Dan Vladar. I do think he was, and not by his own doing, but probably in danger of a mercy hook about 15 minutes into that game last night. But, gets the win. In between the pipes, certainly the battle is ongoing. I think you're going to see a whole lot of both of them.
Yeah, and I think that battle, I literally agree with everything that Wes just said, but I think that battle, this could be a full season goalie platoon where they're going back and forth and riding the hot hand. And I don't actually think that there's anything inherently wrong with that. It's a bit of an adjustment here in Calgary because Jacob Markstrom just plays. He's one of those guys who is in unless he needs a break, and that's probably the coaches and the trainers deciding that Jacob Markstrom's playing. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think you can really fault Dan Vladar. Like, if I look at that first period, the issues were the Flames probably abandoning their structure a little bit and playing a little bit undisciplined, which is completely understandable given the emotion of the opening night and then seeing what happened to a teammate with Rooney. But that's what you're trying to fix more than anything Dan Vladar did. What I'm not willing to do is come in here and every day be like, this guy's ahead or that guy's ahead. I think it's going to be game to game, and I think that we got to be a little bit patient and hopefully you get good goaltending. The best case scenario here is both guys use this competition to fuel themselves and give the Flames, some great play between the pipes.
Well, it's going to be hard to top what the Flames did in Game 1. We'll see what they have in store this weekend with a back-to-back at home against the Flyers on Saturday and then on the road in Edmonton on Sunday. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Danny Austin and Wes Gilbertson, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.